Alright, episode 12. I will try to keep this one shorter because I know you guys could probably deserve a few ones that are not 30 minutes long. Hopefully I do alright. So to begin this off, we have she at the start of this episode early on, learning that Mirren kind of, stabbed him in the back, it appears. We don't know for certain right now, without giving away any spoilers. But this does hopefully add a bit of a spice to Quentin's whole character with the whole aspect of I'm kind of on this quest going with these party members because I am trying to, in basic terms, I'm just trying to find my mentor that's left me behind. Which is, it's nice to have a bit of spice there and start to add some more flavour by recognising on your whole ambitious quest, excuse me, that perhaps it's not as open and closes as, hey, I'm going to find him. When I do, hooray, we can all go home and be happy. I seriously don't, was expecting it to be that simple, but, yes, making the person that you're trying to save and go find, turning out to be the one who is, potentially evil, is a fun way to kind of shake it up. As it works out, there's not a lot I can really discuss in more detail, as more is to come, and spoilers will do what spoilers do, in due time, when they're no longer considered spoilers. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I could honestly add to that right now. No, I don't know if I can. Alright then, talking about making this a shorter video, that's it. There's nothing more I really have to add to that. Secondly, we have the party meeting Vulcan, which is, a good lot of fun to meet the first extremely powerful NPC that kind of dwarfs all other senses of power scaling between different enemies like Doris and others I've met so far, because this guy is very clearly, as his introduction would imply, on an entirely different level. And that's fun. It serves multiple purposes. A really nice one that I like it serving, which I'm taking from One Piece, for example, is the benefit of having someone appear that is not a part of the main cast, that is not a part of the main antagonist, that is completely separate from whatever is actually going on in the person's story, and it's like, oh hi, I'm here, and I am way stronger on a much larger scale than anything you are currently doing. Which I suppose, when you put it a certain way, could come across like it's actually taking away from the sense of significance, if that's the right word I'm looking for, of the actual story that is ongoing between the main characters and their direct enemies. But I do really appreciate the idea of just once in a while being reminded when you get so caught up in, like, we have to stop Doris, and if we don't, it's the end of all things, and so on. And then all of a sudden you have someone like Vulcan, who's just like, oh, by the way, you are, in the grand scheme of things, a small ant, a small tiny side note of a story off to the side in the bigger thing that is going on in the world. And I like that. Maybe not everyone does. I really enjoy the feeling of this is a much greater world than implies. And it's curious I say feeling, because it is a much greater world than what implies. This story is focused on Wollen. That's why it is called the Wollen campaign. And yet this Wollen serves as just one small, extremely remote island in a whole massive world named Felion that's got various continents, different cultures, a variety of different landscapes and biomes and everything. With Wollen just being kind of one central location that's way up past. It's in the... let me just do this right. North, east or west. I believe it is the northwestern part of the world, of the hemisphere. And it is sort of almost like a cultural cooking pot where a variety of individuals from different continents will come together. But this is, of course, not important to go into extreme detail, as curious as it might be to some of you listening to this. The whole greater world is its own thing to come in its own separate time, maybe. For the time being, Wollen simply serves as the focus of this story. And the fact that we get a glimpse of someone like Vulcan as being like, hey, there's a much bigger world out there. And Vulcan does represent one of these much bigger, larger-than-life figures just brushing shoulders with the much smaller but the more primarily focused main story and characters at the time being. And then so slowly ever just like nudging fate a little bit and just pushing them in the right direction towards whatever goal, this greater, larger ongoing purpose outside of what the characters are concerned with, just kind of pushing them to kind of play their role in it. Which is, always fun. It's just, again, I have a huge love for the idea of just making something feel so suddenly small after being such a big deal for so long. It's fun to be able to step back. Not really related to the episode of Wollen Retold, but it is somehow I remember when I was in school, when I was doing exams, or I was stressed out of things, or there was things I was like friends, and as you do when you're like high schoolers and teenagers, things tend to feel very dramatic, like everything is like the end of the world sometimes. I do remember being able to come home after school and go up to like the top of a nearby hill and just be able to just look up the sky, especially when it's getting later on in the afternoon and going to night, and you can start to see like stars in the sky, and it does really feel very refreshing and helpful to, at least for me, I should stress, for some this might inspire existential dread, but I do very much appreciate that feeling of feeling like everything around you is a big deal, like everything about your life is on fire or something. It's been a long time since I've had to worry about feeling that way. Again, not a teenager anymore, but back when that happened, if anyone listening can understand what I'm talking about, then suddenly, or at least in my case, felt very comforting to suddenly be able to be on the top of the hill, looking at the stars in the sky, just seeing the massive open sky above me, recognizing that these stars I'm seeing are like stars that are like sometimes millions of years old, or how the saying goes, don't quote me, I may not be exactly right on the timescale there, but the idea that you're just seeing the light from like, so it's been passing through space for like an ungodly amount of time, and just recognizing how massive and giant all of space and the universe is, and how small you are as a part of it. Suddenly just feeling so small and so little and so tiny in the grand scheme of everything of existence. Again, sorry if this is causing existential dread. For me, I find that comforting. Like, oh, I thought all these things were such a big deal and such big problems. All this person like not talking to me, or I'm having a falling out with this current relationship that I'm trying to mend and I don't know how to go, and blah, 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 and all these exams I need to get done, and if I don't do it, I feel like I'm going to fail. All that sort of worrying, scary stuff all kind of just becomes so much smaller and numb and nowhere near as intense when you just look at this massive open sky. So I guess, maybe a part of that feeling is what makes me enjoy kind of this idea of, in this fantasy world that I built based on my own experiences and things that I like about stories, and including that sort of mentality of, Vulcan being a representation of the greater vastness of the whole universe. Which in time, saying that, will become to be less like a fun metaphor and more like grand foreshadowing, but I guess I can't say too much about that. I'll just leave it on that note. So, keeping within the confines of Wollen Retold's kind of behind the sessions now, a great thing that Vulcan kind of brings, and large part this is thanks to Zach's volunteering, Zach who plays Carrick, is that this is the first time that Carrick is an individual that is being played by Zach, who is not always trying to put his toe over the line with every person he meets, seeing how much he can get away with and how much he can bother or annoy them or mess with them before there's too much and has to be like railed in. More so with Pelham, because with Zook's case, he would be more inclined to put not a toe over the line, but more, like a severed head. But as it goes, everyone has their vices, I suppose. Carrick, however, could be a little cheeky at times in a less intentional way, because clearly Zach seems to like role-play that sort of character. But specifically and importantly, it was really nice to see, because it surprised even me, that when Zach made Carrick's backstory, and the idea for the whole monk thing, and all that other stuff that goes on, it was fun in-game to watch this role-play encounter play out when they meet Vulcan, and Carrick is all of a sudden the most serious and respectful person. There's no nonsense, there's no being silly or teasing. He's got his head down, he's bowing, he's being very attentive to the fact that he is, a mentor here, and that this is absolute, this whole monastery, his whole idealism of what he believes in and what this stands for, being a monk here, he takes so seriously that everything that Vulcan does or says, he accepts without question. And we do see a little bit of tension around that when, after it's over, Nadar tries to be, the voice of reason, go, hey, Teresa's a little bit outside of our expertise and our power level right now. We probably shouldn't do this. And Carrick was not willing to hear that for even a second. So it was fun, and once again, I'm praising him a lot, and I do start to feel a little bad that it seems like I'm showing too much favoritism towards one player over the others. It's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just highlighting how much fun it was with, of course, as if it need to be said, plenty of things I really enjoyed by both the others, and I have time to come, especially in the next while, where I get to fully kind of express that more clearly. The coming episode, some of the stuff that Cade and Jacob's characters, Nadar and now Tywin, were doing instead, that were also really awesome. But it was seeing the kind of new player that was Zach getting comfortable with role-playing and starting to get more of a feel for branching into different characters and aspects. He had the risk early on, and I'm sure he knows. Like, if I don't know how much it's me and how much of it was him. I think we together, DM and player, managed to find a way to avoid his very early instinct to quickly become just a full-blown murder hobo. And I suppose, I don't know if I truly believe this deep down, because, he's already showed himself to be, way above this. But there was that sort of risk where, like, if that was not kind of quickly dealt with, that sort of behaviour, like, let's just murder and kill everyone when we want something and just, just leave a trail of blood behind us everywhere we go. That mentality could have very much become like a problem player at the table, which you might like have a personal conversation with, like, hey, buddy, is this to the detriment of everyone else in the game having fun and the world and the story we're trying to tell here? But of course, that did not happen, and he proved himself, as he's proving himself now, as I'm giving this example, that he's very good at being able to change up in personality, play different characters, have different ways of doing things, that he isn't just defined by himself as just merely being a player, not a character, but a player that just likes to just be like a mindless murder hobo, just being dangerous for the sake of it. So it was very nice to see that he was actually the one who volunteered to have someone like Vulcan be a part of his story in his monastery, so that way he had this whole sort of thing where he could be a bit silly for everyone else, he could be whatever else, and then the second Vulcan is on screen, is before him, he packs it all down, he suddenly completely switches up. It's like his sort of the comparison of someone in like boot camp just kind of messing with their mates and being stupid off duty, and then the commander walks past and all of a sudden they all stand to attention and salute and respectful, and there's no nonsense, there's no cheekiness, none of it, and it's just exactly that sort of that essence. It was really cool to see that I didn't have to force that on him or encourage that. That was purely Zach saying, hey, I want to play a character now who's going to have a person that's going to make him go right and stand in line and be at attention and behave and follow like a strong sense of like law and moral code assigned from this monastery, as opposed to just going to be like a reckless goon that is just like trying to either murder everyone he finds or loot everyone he finds. So yeah, just approving of that. Beyond that, we then had them heading into Dale to go and essentially try to take down Doris, despite, on some level, even the characters were aware, all the players knew this was unlikely to go particularly well, as they had a better sense than the characters did of the power scaling, the issue, and the enemy they were up against. So naturally, in the end, as we see, it doesn't go great. In fact, it would be hard for it to have gone much worse. And thankfully, the Blue Flames, as implied at the end, and the old time loop, did a great job of preventing that from becoming an extremely serious, I'd say issue, but TPK, campaign over. So, it's a good thing that worked out the way it did. there's a lot I could talk about when it comes to, like them going through there, like Teresa's speech that implies that while serious and whatever else, he has good leadership qualities, and does appear to be doing this for better reasons, just purely his own selfish gain and power. Once again reinforcing that maybe Teresa isn't completely the great evil villain that he's made out to be. But I'm sure as hell not about to tell you that he's a perfect man or a great guy, because my God, does he make some questionable decisions and do some pretty objectively bad things, and you may see more of that in a very short time to come. But there's also, there's not a lot to say. They just kind of, get into fights maybe a little bit unnecessarily with the some of the Sharkin, and it does get into trouble. They manage to escape it, only to get, faced with Doris, and sort of the reckless, happy-go-lucky nature of characters be like, yeah, let's get him. I suppose it's not happy-go-lucky at all. His role-playing character was rightfully angry, especially learning that, his own valued family member, his cousin, Cyrus Greenhill, the Viscount of Labrie, actually being endangered by this guy he already doesn't like because he's been told to kill him and knows nothing else about him. That does not do anything to help already a bad first impression. So it goes poorly, and that all happens, and it is brutal, and it's bloody fun to kind of have the cop out in this episode where it looks like, it fades to white and this is the end. I'm sure very few of you actually believe that to be true, that there was actually going to be, I don't think I'm surprised or caught anyone off guard by the reveal that it wasn't actually a TPK. I'm sure you all saw it coming, that this wasn't how it's just going to finish off the series. But it was fun to, imagine that could have been the outcome. It very nearly was, just save for, thankfully, Vulcan coming in earlier and having a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for here? A little bit of, I don't know, aid? Sorry, completely lost where I was trying to go with that one. But the last thing that is worth pointing out here, again, in the hopes that this remains a shorter episode than usual, is the deck of many things. Nadar draws 2 cards back to back before failing to get either one of them to help, even though the last one very certainly could, gets killed, but he still has access to them for later because he's not actually being killed. So, there's a lot of things in the deck of many things. Not a lot I have to go into right now, but if you're experienced D&D players listening to this and you already have an idea of the thing, you understand the deck of many things to some degree, then you probably already know what the effects do. So you're not going to be surprised later on by the 2 effects that do take effect when their time is to do so, I'll say. I have found, again, so to clear, the deck of many things, I love it, first and foremost, fantastic. It's just such an interesting concept to me that I really wanted to explore, so I intentionally, I stepped back and let it really take center stage when it was its time to do so. And then it'll make more sense later on. But because this first campaign was all about me not only experimenting and trying new things and taking risk and just seeing, what would work and what wouldn't for a campaign, because even if this one went up in flames, it was still worth learning from for later on. And maybe that sort of willingness as me, the DM, to be able to step in and say, hey, I like this campaign, I wanted to keep going, I'm enjoying it, the players are enjoying it, but if it does implode upon itself because I'm allowing all these powerful these insane features to happen that you're not supposed to really, you're not encouraged to do so by the actual rulebook, then it is, I think having that sort of detachment, that level of it's okay, I don't even mind that much if it does go all wrong or whatever else, because it'll be fun and interesting to see what happens. It'll be a cool way for it to end, if it all does get crazy. I think that detachment from it maybe in some ways add a lot of value to the sandbox campaign, because I wasn't so precious and trying so hard to protect it. It might have actually made it more fun and felt more worthy of protecting, because it could so easily be lost or destroyed, the whole War Ordnance campaign. So I stuck to the rules as well in this first one. In Wollen itself, this first campaign I've ever run, I did everything by the book, which is absolutely not the way that I naturally like to do things. I love to tinker and tweak and change things up. You know, there are very few video games I like playing in my own personal time that I do not add mods to and slightly change and curate the experience from how it was intended by the developers or created that way, so that I can add my own kind of like taste or flair to it the way I like. It was the same with this. Very, very tempted. The entire time, constantly wanting to homebrew and change unit rules and do things differently. But I said no. I made a commitment and promised myself before I began this campaign that I would do everything the way the rules intended in this game and not go any crazier than that. So that's why the Deck of Many Things has the default effects, but having read the Deck of Many Things, having loved the Deck of Many Things, I was well aware there's quite a few... Quick side note, realising right now I have a Kiwi accent and I've been saying the Deck of Many Things, and I understand, for those who've probably been laughing at this and probably didn't realise I was going to address it, I'm only now realising I'm going to. I do apologise if me saying deck with a Kiwi accent is sounding like a different word to some of you. And that's probably been hilarious if you caught on to that much sooner than I did. Anyway, back into the point. I did, now I'm going to be aware of it, now I did change up the Deck of Many Things since this game actually concluded of Wollen, the original first campaign, and I have now made every effect that I felt was a little bit lacking compared to some of the great ones. I think the Fate card is crazy powerful and insane because of the implications of what it could do and what it could mean, especially with the means of the butterfly effect, depending on how much a DM wants to kind of utilize a butterfly effect. I personally really like butterfly effect, and so therefore I would very much want to, if given the chance, have the Fate card drastically change everything, as it should. Especially if you go far enough back in history to change in a certain element. That only causes more ramifications. So, yeah, just worth pointing out that maybe at some point I can even like put them out there for others to see if they're interested. But I did have the entire catalogue of effects for every single card in the Deck of Many Things looked at, and then I pretty much rewrote every single one of them, barring like one or two that are already perfect, the Fate card being one of them. So some effects have been swapped from good to bad. I kept the overall ratio balanced, so there's an even amount of good and bad ones, and a couple, just a very tiny few in the middle, that kind of neutral could go either way. And I made every single effect way more powerful. So absolutely every card you now draw has an extremely strong chance of drastically and permanently affecting the world around you in some significant way forever. So the cards that were decent are now amazing, and the cards that were not so awesome are now going to be a terrifying and truly scary thing to draw. And I did like the idea that, you know, if you don't do that with your Deck of Many Things, then, you know, how the hell are you having fun? Yeah, I just wanted, you know, there'd be a great sense of tribulation, of anticipation, excitement, as well as fear and dread at drawing from the deck, just so that way, you know, you really feel like you were making one serious gamble on all of reality. But yes, I think for the most part that concludes everything that I need to say today. Not the shortest episode ever, and I did have a few tangents, but for the most part we are coming in pretty good for time. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you for listening, and I'm sure to make up for next time, having had a shorter than usual episode, you can, knowing me, expect the next one to be significantly longer than it usually should be. Look forward to that, if you can, and I will see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.